Hey everybody, it's Glenn back in this video with confessions of an Ebayaholic and a wrestling figure review, 4 of them actually, so all of you who pipe up in the comments of my other videos asking where are the WWE figure reviews, well you better get to liking and sharing this video, if not don't blame me when they go away for good. So I believe this is a Target exclusive in the US, alas no Targets here in the UK, as such the good news is I can hit eBay to bring the set to British shores. Bad news is I may have overpaid. Set me back, shipped to my doorstep, £71.96. But it's the Heenan family, and with Bobby the Brain being my all-time favourite manager, it became essential. Albeit that is a Heenan family box set with little synergy, what with none of these wrestlers ever being in Bobby's stable at the same time, but I'll get more into that later. First, let's kick off with Andre the Giant. And if Bobby is my favourite manager, then Andre here may just be my all-time favourite wrestler. The set as a whole encapsulates the sentiment of something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. Something blue being the most tenuous, but still here represented in his blue singlet, which he wore the very last year or two of his career. Then something old as it is of course the body we've seen used previously for 2012's WWE Legends Andre, then more recently in 2014's Elite Collection Series 29 Andre. Big difference being those came with a black fabric singlet, which in comparison cheapens this painted on one. Then I'll attribute the something borrowed to the head, which is the one that originally came on the Andre that was paired in a 2015 battle pack with his spiritual successor, The Big Show. Now when I reviewed that battle pack I spoke of my preference for this head over the Legends or Elite one, what with its wide-eyed piercing stare best capturing the evil of Andre I nostalgically remember from my childhood. And it seems Mattel were listening, as the battle pack head is the one they've opted for, yet on this Legends/Elite body, the neck disappears up into the head much more than it did on the battle pack one. But I could reason that as it representing the last stage of Andre's career when he was much more hunched, what with his giant frame collapsing on itself. Now looking at his articulation, and that head rotates side to side, and even though it is just on a ball peg, the head does look down slightly and also up. At the shoulder the arm rotates and then it hinges up to just slightly more than a right angle to the body. There's upper arm rotation followed by a single jointed elbow, then at the wrist the hands rotate and they hinge moving down and up. He has waist rotation, then an ab crunch which moves slightly forward and then slightly back. Now what with his singlet being painted on, a bit of an eyesore I don't like is that you can see the flesh coloured plastic into the interior of the joint. At the hips his legs move out to the side this much and they move this far forward but then don't really move back. There's upper leg rotation followed by a double jointed knee, there's rotation at the top of the boots, and then the feet should be hinged at the ankle but they're frozen on this Andre and he has an ankle pivot. Ultimately the Andre action figure has more articulation than actual Andre had in the ring, especially the last few years of his career. A legendary career nonetheless that was capped off by a monumental heel turn that saw him take this man, Bobby the Brain Heenan, as his manager. And side by side like this you get a good sense of Andre's scale and the dichotomy of Andre's brawn and Bobby's brain. And in fact the very appearance of Bobby we get in this set ties directly back to Andre, as it is Bobby wearing the costume he wore as he accompanied his man into the main event of only the 3rd ever WrestleMania, which saw Andre versus Hulk Hogan. As such it is very niche, and while I'm certainly over the moon to have Mattel's first ever Bobby Heenan action figure, so this isn't me being ungrateful, but I do hope one follows that's more general and less specific to a moment in time. It's just displaying this Bobby against any other member of the Heenan family that isn't Andre just feels like a betrayal of that great WrestleMania moment. Now as we're taking a closer look, and if we do ever get a second Bobby the Brain Heenan, I wouldn't object at all to this head being on it, as I really am quite a fan of this likeness. Now looking at his articulation, and the head rotates side to side and then there is the tiniest movement of the head up and down. At the shoulder his arm rotates and this hinges up this far, there's upper arm rotation followed by a single jointed elbow, then at the wrists the hands rotate and they hinge moving down and also up. He has a waist rotation, but then I feel like maybe they've set the cummerbund a bit too low to allow for that rotation, and then he has an ab crunch which moves forwards and backwards. At the hips, his legs move out to the side this far, and then they move this far forward, and they move actually a decent amount back. There's upper leg rotation, followed by a double jointed knee. Then his feet have rotation around a ball joint at the ankle. And now Mr. Perfect, a name which sets a high bar for his action figure, of which I now own two, the first being from the third series of Mattel's WWE Legends some years ago. Long enough, I suppose, that I shouldn't resent Mattel for sneaking a second one into this set. I think we may have even got a basic one in between these two. The Legends one on the right of the screen came with the classic Intercontinental Championship and the towel he's clutching there, which ritually he would toss behind his back and catch with the other hand because, you know, he's perfect. Boy, did he enjoy telling us that. Anyway, side by side, and I prefer the orange and black to the blue and yellow singlet. The former just seems burned into my mind as more classically Mr. Perfect. However, the deco is far from perfect. The first problem being that his torso is molded in orange plastic, his legs in flesh-colored plastic. So where the legs of the singlet extend over the upper leg swivel, essentially where the different colored plastic torso and legs connect, they've painted the legs of the singlet to match the orange plastic of the torso, except when I say match, it doesn't really. Then extending up onto the torso, we get the same problem except in reverse, with the torso being painted flesh colored to match the flesh colored plastic of the limbs and head, except again, it's a bit of a jarring mismatch. So while in theory I prefer the color combo of the newer box set one, the older Legends one is better executed in practice, with the paint to plastic colors appearing less mismatched. I have a hunch that poorer execution may have been budgetary, as further evidence of that is in the deco of the hair, as on the new one, gone is the paint wash that the Legends one received, making the hair appear less multi-tonal. Yet when it comes to the eyebrows, I had assumed for these past few years the Legends one on the right of the screen was cocksuredly raising an eyebrow and preempting The Rock. I guess ignorance is bliss, a bliss that's been now shattered by this new one and its likely more correctly applied eyebrows. As for the Legends one, I think they must have applied those eyebrows pin the tail on the donkey style, which if they were the efforts of a 4-year-old, I'd pat said 4-year-old on the head, but the efforts of a professional toy company, you ain't getting a pat on the head from me. Checking out his articulation, and the head rotates, or hang on, his mullet's got stuck in the back, and there's not really any up or down movement of the head. At the shoulder, the arm rotates, and it moves up this far. There's upper arm rotation, followed by a single jointed elbow. Then at the wrist, the hands rotate, and they're also hinged, moving down and up. There's waist rotation, then an ab crunch, which moves this far forward, and then it moves this far back. At the hips, the legs move out to the side this much, they move this far forward, and then they move only very slightly back. There's upper leg rotation, and then his knee pads are hiding a double jointed knee there. There's rotation at the top of the boot, and then yep, his ankles are frozen, yet there is an ankle pivot. Finally, and proving that last doesn't mean least, it's Big John Studd, and like Bobby Heenan, he's making his debut with Mattel in this set too. Surprisingly really, as John casts a long shadow, and I don't mean that just as one of the giants of wrestling. Yet while I'm happy to add him to the roster of my collection, I'll return to what I was saying about the synergy of the set united under the banner of the Heenan family. And this is likely me just being a bit OCD, yet while they were all part of that stable, it was at different times, and Big John Studd seemingly paired with Andre as part of the same wrestling faction niggles me, as he is best remembered by me as locked in a bitter feud with Andre. Interestingly, remember that curious and removable afro that came with the Elite Andre? Well, its removal was courtesy of Big John Studd here, who teamed with King Kong Bundy to forcibly cut Andre's hair against his will. I think we were supposed to be upset for the then fan favourite Andre, yet the man had a disco afro in 1984, years and years after disco had died, so Andre, they were really doing you a favour. Culminating in a body slam match at the first WrestleMania, where the first combatant to body slam his opponent would be declared the true giant of wrestling. Yes, a body slam match. How times would change. Can you imagine how just such a match would go over in ECW? I'm not sure I recognize this body. Maybe it's new. If you're aware of its previous use or uses, do let me know in the comments below. But it's a good size for Big John, standing him somewhere between the more average size Mr. Perfect and the loftier Andre the Giant. Close up and with the deco, it renders a kind of manly chest rug of the kind you don't see in wrestling of today. I guess that's down to Vince or someone else handing out bucketfuls of Nair backstage. And as I bring up a picture of Big John to compare the likeness, it seems from time to time he himself was partial to a bit of Nair as he is without his chest rug in this picture. Beyond that, when I first locked eyes on the action figure, I thought it had a great likeness, but now I'm looking at them side by side like this, I'm knocking that great likeness down to an okay one. And looking at his articulation, the head rotates side to side. There isn't really any up or down movement of the head. However, at the arm, his shoulder rotates and it moves up this far. There's upper arm rotation, followed by a single jointed elbow. There's rotation of the hands at the wrist, and these are hinge, moving down and up. He has waist rotation and then an ab crunch, which moves this far forward and moves this far back. For extreme posers, you might be disappointed to see that they didn't continue the deco of the chest hair up into the interior of that joint. At the hips, his legs move out to the side this far, then they move this far forward and only very slightly back. There's upper leg rotation, followed by a double jointed knee. At the top of the boots, he has rotation, and then ooh, look, I'm getting a hinge out of his ankle. Would you believe it? And then he also has an ankle pivot. Finally, here are all the members of the Heenan family assembled together, not as I've banged on about, they were actually all together at one time. For a better synergy, I'd have swapped out second time around Mr. Perfect for Haku, who is yet to appear in Mattel's run. Here represented by Jack's classic Superstars version, yet Jack's figures in terms of scale and proportion really are not a great fit with Mattel's. So would have been great to have got him, especially as Bobby Heenan led him and Andre as the Colossal Connection to the tag team titles, coincidentally when Andre wore this blue singlet. And while I'm making wishes, another Heenan family member to add to the list who has never received a figure under Mattel or Jakks is Hercules. Probably now the most significant wrestler of that era to go without a rendition in plastic. But brushing my wish list to the side, and this is still a great set for bringing us John Studd and Bobby the Brain Heenan for the first time. Anyway, click this video for my previous wrestling action figure review, and if you want to keep them coming, prove it by clicking the like button, or better still, share it to bring it to fresh eyes. And I hope to see you all next time. Bye.